What happened when a talk show host challenged Melania Trump? The answer left everyone stunned. The camera zoomed in on the lively audience of a bustling Los Angeles talk show set. Bright lights illuminated the stage, buzzing with the familiar energy of a primetime broadcast. Millions of viewers at home had tuned in for what they assumed would be another night of humor and sharp political commentary. At the center of it all sat Alex Brooks, the charismatic, outspoken liberal host known for asking tough questions. His signature grin gleamed under the lights as he adjusted his tailored blazer. "Tonight," Alex began, his tone playful yet teasing, "we have a very unexpected guest, someone I bet you never thought would walk onto this stage." The crowd murmured, curiosity spreading like wildfire. A few leaned forward in their seats, whispering guesses. Then, with a dramatic pause, the stage lights shifted. From behind the curtain emerged none other than Melania Trump, poised in a chic ivory suit. Gasps rippled through the audience. Some clapped awkwardly, others exchanged incredulous glances. For a moment, even Alex seemed caught off guard. He quickly recovered, flashing his trademark smirk as Melania approached the host's chair with graceful confidence. "Thank you for inviting me," she said, her accent steady yet soft. The audience wasn't sure how to react: applause, skepticism, or silence. The tension was palpable, and it was clear. This wasn't going to be a typical interview. The conversation begins. As the show resumed, Alex maintained his usual charm, though there was an unmistakable glint of curiosity and mischief in his eyes. Leaning back in his chair, he began with an easy question. "So, Melania, life after the White House, what's it like?" Melania met his gaze without hesitation. "It is peaceful," she replied evenly. "I spend my time with my family, working on my projects, and continuing my initiatives to help children." The audience listened intently, their skepticism melting into intrigue as she outlined her philanthropic efforts, supporting underprivileged kids, raising mental health awareness, and empowering young people. Alex nodded thoughtfully before leaning in. "Interesting," he said, his tone shifting. "But let's address the elephant in the room. During your time as First Lady, many criticized you for staying silent on controversial issues. Why didn't you speak up?" The audience braced for her response, the tension thick in the room. Melania, however, remained calm. She folded her hands neatly on her lap and answered, "Actions speak louder than words. It's easy to talk, but true change comes from what you do, not what others want to hear." A ripple of murmurs spread across the audience. Alex raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued but not ready to back down. "A personal turn." "Actions over words," Alex repeated, his smirk widening. "But don't some moments demand words? When stakes are high, silence can speak just as loudly, don't you think?" Melania tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "Everyone has a role to play," she replied. "Mine was to support my husband and serve my country in my way." Alex leaned forward, his voice growing sharper. "And supporting him meant staying quiet, even when his words caused division?" The crowd gasped audibly. The directness of his question shifted the atmosphere. All eyes were on Melania. She didn't blink. Instead, she let the silence stretch before speaking. "Division has always been part of this country," she said. "It's easy to blame one person, but that doesn't solve anything. I focus on bringing people together, not on placing blame." The audience buzzed with mixed reactions. Even Alex seemed momentarily at a loss for words before regaining his composure. Uncharted territory. "Fair enough," Alex conceded. "But let's dive deeper. There are rumors, personal controversies, things people want to hear directly from you. For example, your marriage." A collective gasp filled the room. The tension was almost unbearable. Yet Melania's expression didn't falter. If anything, there was a flicker of steel in her eyes. Alex leaned closer, lowering his voice to make the moment feel intimate but charged. "Let's talk about the questions everyone's been asking. Your silence during the most turbulent times, your relationship with the former president. Are you ready to clear the air?" The audience was on the edge of their seats, the air thick with anticipation. Alex's smirk suggested he thought he had her cornered. But Melania wasn't rattled. Straightening her posture, she replied firmly, "I am here to speak for myself, not for rumors or stories made by people who don't know me." Alex tried to interrupt, but she continued, her tone sharpening. "Everyone has opinions, but opinions are not facts. I know who I am and what I stand for. The rest is noise." The crowd erupted in applause. Some stood, clapping enthusiastically. Even Alex appeared momentarily stunned, his smirk slipping into an expression of genuine surprise. A sharp pivot. Alex, not one to back down, pushed harder. "Okay, but let's be honest. How do you reconcile your platform of unity and kindness with some of the more controversial statements your husband made? Statements that many feel divided the nation." A hushed silence fell over the room. The question was bold, designed to provoke. Melania's gaze never wavered. "Division isn't new," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "If we want unity, it starts with how we treat each other, not just with words, but with actions." Alex opened his mouth to challenge her, but she wasn't finished. "It's easy to judge others," she said, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "It's harder to ask why you feel the need to judge." The room exploded in applause again, this time louder and more sustained. Alex sat back, his pen forgotten in his hand. For once, he seemed at a loss for what to say next. It was the kind of question designed to corner someone, to force them into either a defensive stance or an emotional outburst. The audience tensed, bracing themselves for what was to come. But Melania Trump, calm and composed as ever, didn't falter. She rested her hands gently on her lap, her expression steady yet resolute. "People see what they want to see," she said, her voice cutting through the thick silence. "My focus has always been on helping children, promoting kindness, and showing respect. I can't control what others say or think about me, but I can control how I respond. And I choose kindness." The audience shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to react. Alex raised an eyebrow, his expression a mixture of amusement and disbelief. He leaned in slightly, clearly unimpressed by what he saw as a carefully rehearsed answer. "Kindness is admirable," he said with a subtle smirk. "But surely there were times when you could have spoken out, taken a stand." Melania's eyes narrowed just enough to suggest she wasn't going to let him steer the narrative. Her voice, sharp, yet unwavering, broke through his interruption. "Taking a stand isn't always about being the loudest voice in the room," she said. "Sometimes it's about staying true to your values, even when it's unpopular to do so." A wave of applause swept through the crowd, some even cheering. Alex looked momentarily caught off guard, his practiced confidence faltering for a split second. But he quickly masked it with a light laugh, leaning back in his chair as if to regain control. "Fair enough," he said, his tone carrying a hint of challenge. "But silence can also be seen as complicity, don't you think?" Melania tilted her head slightly, her gaze unwavering. "And words without action can be seen as hypocrisy," she countered smoothly. Her delivery was calm, but the impact was piercing. The crowd erupted, the energy in the room shifting entirely. Gasps and scattered applause turned into a roaring ovation. Alex's face betrayed a flicker of uncertainty, his polished demeanor cracking under the pressure. He adjusted his tie, clearly searching for his next move. Then he dropped the question no one thought he would dare to ask. "Do you ever regret marrying Donald Trump?" The room froze. A collective gasp echoed through the audience, the air so thick with tension you could feel it. Even the production crew behind the cameras paused, their usual movements stilled by the weight of the moment. Melania didn't react immediately. She sat there, her expression unreadable, as if weighing the significance of her response. The silence stretched uncomfortably long, drawing every pair of eyes toward her. Finally she spoke, her tone calm, yet piercing. "Regret is for those who don't take responsibility for their choices," she said. "I know who I married. I know the life I chose. And I stand by it. Not because it's easy, but because it's mine." The audience exploded into applause, louder and more unified than ever before. Some stood, clapping with admiration, their faces lit with awe. Even Alex seemed shaken, his usual smirk replaced by an expression of genuine surprise. He opened his mouth to respond, but Melania wasn't done. "We live in a world where it's easy to criticize from the sidelines," she continued, her voice unwavering. "But unless you've lived someone's life, you cannot fully understand their decisions. I do not owe anyone an explanation for my choices." The applause became deafening, the crowd firmly on her side now. Alex leaned back in his chair, visibly humbled, his earlier bravado nowhere to be found. The cameras cut to a commercial break, but the buzz in the studio didn't die down. The audience chattered excitedly, a mix of disbelief and admiration in their voices. Backstage, producers scrambled to process what had just unfolded. Notes were frantically typed, whispers flew between headsets, and one phrase kept circulating: "This is going viral." On stage, Alex turned to Melania, his tone softer, almost apologetic. "I'll admit," he said, offering a hesitant smile, "I didn't expect you to handle that so gracefully." Melania regarded him with a polite, measured smile. "I don't play games, Alex. I speak the truth. And that is enough." Her words lingered, the host momentarily at a loss for how to respond. As Melania exited the stage, whispers followed her. Staff members and guests alike exchanged stunned glances, some rushing to compliment her composure, others simply observing in awe. She thanked them graciously but didn't linger. Outside, a sea of reporters and flashing cameras awaited her. Questions flew at her from every direction. "Do you think Alex crossed the line? Were you prepared for this interview? Do you have anything more to say?" Melania paused, turning briefly to face the cameras. Her response was as poised as ever. "I said what needed to be said," she stated simply. Then, without another word, she stepped into her car and disappeared into the night, leaving the crowd buzzing in her wake. By morning, the interview had ignited a nationwide debate. Clips of the exchange flooded social media, with hashtags like #Melania Speaks and #Melania vs Alex trending worldwide. The reactions were polarized. Some hailed her as unshakable and poised, while others accused her of sidestepping accountability. Cable news networks replayed the confrontation on a loop, analyzing every word, every glance, every shift in body language. Coffee shops, offices, and dinner tables buzzed with conversations about what had unfolded. People debated the ethics of personal questions, the limits of professional respect, and whether Alex had crossed a line. Amid the frenzy, Melania stayed silent. Her words from the interview stood on their own, a deliberate choice that only deepened the public's fascination. Critics and supporters alike couldn't help but admire her ability to rise above the chaos without raising her voice. In the weeks that followed, Alex addressed the interview on his show. "I'll say this," he told his audience. "Whether you agree with her or not, Melania Trump knows how to command a room." The moment became more than just a viral interview. It became a lesson, a reminder of the power of staying true to oneself in the face of adversity. In a world driven by noise, Melania's quiet strength left a lasting impact. Her final words hung in the air long after the headlines faded. "The truth is enough."